Now, as the leader in making us well known, I would like to introduce a gentleman who was instrumental in creating the vital link between the University of Missouri-St. Louis and the Missouri Botanical Garden. Dr. Peter Raven is a member of the University of Missouri's Board of Curators and the director of the Missouri Botanical Garden. His leadership in the area of tropical botany is known throughout the world. Among his many awards are the International Prize for Biology from the Government of Japan, the Environmental Prize of the Institut de la Vie in Paris, and many, many more. It is my great pleasure to introduce the director of the Missouri Botanical Garden, Dr. Peter Raven.
Thank you, Bob. I'd be remiss if I didn't call attention to your own leadership role, which has been of such great importance in forging this alliance and in putting together the center, which holds such great promise for addressing the problems that properly concern us all here now. It is really an enormous pleasure for me to be able to introduce John Denver, who is possibly the world's best known and most loved performer of music. With extraordinary talent, he literally has captured the spirit of the 60s, 70s, and 80s and proved that addressing enduring values in a consistent, magnificent, loving, and feeling way is the kind of an act that will make us all appreciate values that we have in us, but for which we need someone like John Denver to truly appreciate. He has taught us a great deal through his caring lyrics, his wonderful performances, his public activities, about the meaning of the quality of life for each and every one of us, about the meaning of our life in America for everyone around the globe, and about our total and complete global interdependence, which is basically the only stake that we have in the future. Beginning his career in the 1960s, John Denver, starting out in Los Angeles, became the lead singer in the Chad Mitchell Trio, wrote Leaving on a Jet Plane, Peter, Paul, and Mary's first hit, and then within a couple of years was headed for the top of the charts himself with songs like Take Me Home, Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High, Sunshine on My Shoulders, and many, many more, which have justifiably remained popular right down to the present. His record since the early 70s includes 14 gold albums and 8 platinum albums, and John Denver's Greatest Hits is still one of the largest selling albums in the history of RCA Records with some 18 million copies. His tours have reached millions throughout the world, from the US and Canada, throughout Europe, Australia, New Zealand, the Orient, the United Kingdom, and for the past 6 years he's been especially active in the Soviet Union, doubtless contributing greatly to the feeling which has brought the world so far forward in appreciating the fact that we do indeed share the proprietorship of a very limited common resource, this planet. I won't quote his magnificent words for you today because you'd rather hear them from his own voice, but I would like to say that John Denver is not only a fine performer, but he has consistently reflected the conscience of concerned citizens, of people working for the improvement of the quality of life for everyone, environmentally, socially, and politically. The more these issues are considered, the more we realize that they're really one and the same, and John Denver has played a key role in reminding us of that fact. He is talented in so many ways and has had so many different experiences. He's a licensed jet pilot with his own Learjet. He's a fine photographer. He's a great environmentalist, and he's a thoroughly enjoyable human being. Despite problems of geography, economics, politics, and language which threaten to separate the people of the world who need one another so badly, he has used his wonderful gifts to help bring us all together. He brings us a message of love, of peace, of interdependence, and above all, of the desire to do things better in the future than we have been in the past. It is with the greatest pleasure that I bring you our distinguished awardee for today, John Denver.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Raven, Chancellor Toohill, Mayor Shamel, Mr. Herman, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd really like you to know how very happy I am to be here in St. Louis today, and how happy I was to take my coat off. I want to thank you, Mr. McDonald, for providing some leadership there, and I wish all of you other guys up here would make yourselves more comfortable if you feel the need. Yeah. I was at church with my mother a couple of Sundays ago, and the beginning of the sermon really caught me. The fellow said that his job, as mine is today, was to speak, and yours was to listen. And if you were to finish your job before I finish mine, would you please get up and leave quietly so as not to wake up the person next to you? I trust that I won't talk that long. I was born an Air Force brat. My father was raised on a small family farm in Oklahoma, and it's there that I first came to be in touch with the earth and to become aware of the seasons, and for the first time to look into a night sky that was glorious, even to my childhood eyes, in the majesty of what I saw there. And first began to wonder what my connection was to all of that. When we moved around different places in the world, I felt very insecure as a child and consequently spent a lot of time by myself. Most of that time was spent outdoors someplace, in the deserts in Arizona, in forests and woods in southern Alabama, in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, in the plains of Texas and Oklahoma. When I began to find the way to express myself, my deepest feelings, it was natural that I used nature to share that, to express it, to articulate it. And as I began to have some success with my music, with my career, I found that there were opportunities to step forward and speak out about the things that I believed and the things that I cared for. Some of you may remember a movie I did called Oh God. I had gotten to a point in my career where the opportunity to make a movie had made itself readily available. I started sent lots of scripts. I was the biggest selling recording artist in the world, and boy, everybody thought we could do something with this kid. But I didn't want to do a movie just to do a movie. I wanted to do something that was also an expression of what I'm trying to do with my life and with my music. Something that meant something, about something, and for something. And so this script to Oh God came to me, and you may remember the scene where Jerry Landers, the character I played, first meets God face to face in the bathroom. So it was this scene that made me want to do that movie. And if you remember, Jerry's talking to God, and he's asking him why, in the person of George Burns, which was perfect, asking God why he chose this particular time to make an appearance. And God says, well, I made the world to work. And Jerry said, well, have you read the papers lately? Because it ain't working. I felt that then, as I feel it to a large degree now. And Jerry asked God, why don't you do something about it? And God says, why don't you do something about it? It's your world. I'd like to be flying one of those. Oh. So God says to Jerry, why don't you do something about it? It's your world. Well, I have always felt that if we're going to deal sufficiently with the problems that confront us, no matter who we are, where we live, what our color is, what the expression of our faith is, it's not going to come from some divine intervention. It's going to be out of our own actions. And Jerry says to God, he says, but we need help. And God says, that's why I gave you each other. Well, see, boy, all of that just so rang in my heart that I knew that that was the film that I wanted to do. And I think the reason that it was as successful as it was, and I think yet today still one of the top 100 grossing films of all time, this simple little movie that we made for $5 million. Actually, I think we made it for about $2 million, and they spent $3 million on the press. Promotion, such a big part of our world today. But that movie was very successful, not because it was funny, but because there were some little pieces of truth in it that really rang in people's hearts. And in that particular scene is where it came from for me. I believe that we are here for each other, not against each other. I believe that humankind is going through what I would call a Copernican shift, a shift of consciousness from a world that has always been about you or me, which of course means me first, to a world that we recognize is about you and me. I think it's going to take all of us working together to come up with what is needed to deal with the problems that we face in our future, in creating a sustainable future and a healthy environment. To that end, and out of the success that I've had many, many opportunities to work with organizations such as the United Nations, UNESCO, UNICEF. I'm a High Commissioner, an ambassador for the High Commissioner for Refugees, one of the founders of the Hunger Project, a founder of the WinStar Foundation, which I'm so very proud. And our stated purpose at WinStar is my purpose in life: how to be a catalyst for responsible action on a global scale toward a sustainable future and a healthy environment. That is what I sing for. It is from that spirit that my songs come. And to receive an award like this, you know, I truly feel very, very honored and a little bit embarrassed, because I think I have yet to live up to what this award implies. And I commit to you today, recommit myself to you and to this work that has so much to do with all of us and all that we care for, all that we believe in. I really want to congratulate the Missouri Botanical Society and the University of St. Louis, or University of Missouri here in St. Louis, for creating this international center for tropical ecology. There is truly no more pressing work, no greater knowledge that needs to be gained than what you're about here. And you're truly taking a leadership role. Missouri, in my knowledge, has always been the show me state. Well, here's one place where you're stepping forward and you're going to show the rest of the world. And I like that very much, and I congratulate you on that. And I want to be part of it. The WinStar Foundation has just been a part this past summer, along with the United Nations Environmental Program and NASA, and with the sponsorship, the founding sponsor was the Amway Corporation, of creating the Aspen Institute on Global Change. And what we're doing there is to bring earth scientists from all disciplines, from all over the world, to Aspen, Colorado for 3 weeks each summer to look at what's going on environmentally, to come together with a comprehensive perspective that we can give to policy setters like our so-called environmental president, so that he can stand up and play a leadership role and allow the United States to play the kind of leadership role that it ought to be around issues such as ozone depletion, deforestation, and global warming. I mean, what does it take to get this guy going? I can't believe that in this situation today, this terrible situation in the Persian Gulf, and as much as I admire President Bush and consider him a friend and think he's doing a great job in bringing the world together to address a problem that needs to be done, that there's nobody putting out the same kind of effort to come together with a comprehensive energy policy for this country. We had this problem in the 70s. We're no further ahead now than we were then. Oriented toward environmental issues. Their very first product back in the old days, a couple guys put together what I believe to be the first biodegradable soap. Anyway, that's where that began. But he said, if you listen to what's going on in the world, and you learn a little bit about what's happening environmentally, and you're an intelligent human being, and you have a leadership opportunity, you either step up and do what it takes to find out what is so that you can begin acting on it and educating others, or you're merely reacting to what other people have already done, or you're getting in the way. Well, it would seem to me that the International Center for Tropical Ecology is playing a leadership role. I believe that Amway is playing a leadership role, and Winstar is playing a leadership role, but I wonder which one of those categories we would put our president in today. I feel like he's getting in the way, folks. I read today in the paper, USA Today, God, all these stuff, all the world news today. One of the articles was about how participatory sports, although they bring forward certain talents in young people, do not really teach young people how to live a healthy life. We're beginning to talk about preventive measures. Only a couple of weeks ago, the same thing came forward in regard to health care, in regard to nutrition, and that we have to do more and more in a preventive way to begin teaching our kids an environmental ethic that we're only striving to learn ourselves today because it was never there for us. Preventive measures. And I think that's very, very exciting. Preventive measures. And I love airplanes too. I was at Prince William Sound a little over a year ago, 2 weeks more than a year ago, to see the kind of job that Exxon had done at the end of the summer after spilling 11 million gallons of what we cannot afford to waste on the pristine shoreline and waters of Prince William Sound, an accident that need never have happened, should not have happened. And aside from the environmental damage that was done, again, what we cannot afford to waste. I was there again earlier this summer, and I read today that Exxon is once again congratulating themselves on the great job that they've done and how they've brought Prince William Sound back to its natural beauty. I'm here to tell you from my firsthand experience that they're lying through their teeth. I would also have you know, we talk about preventive measures. I visited what has been put in place since the Exxon Valdez accident to make sure that an accident like this doesn't happen again. Now let me tell you just three of the points. One is a speed limit. We have speed limits everywhere. We have speed limits in our airplanes. You know, how come there's not a speed limit in Prince William Sound? You know that when these tankers are going full speed, which is about 15 knots, if they were to lose power, it takes them 23 miles to stop. So now there's a speed limit in Prince William Sound of 10 knots. There's also a test that takes place within an hour of departure to make sure that the crew has not consumed any alcohol. The third thing is that they have a boat now which escorts the tankers all the way out of the Sound, not just through the headwaters, and is able to contain a small oil spill or to pull a tanker out of the way if it were to lose power. Anyway, three simple things that end up costing approximately 7 cents a barrel of Alaskan crude oil. Now, who's going to pay for that? We're going to pay for it anyway, not the oil companies. And Exxon 2 years ago made $5.7 billion in profit. That's $10,000 a minute. And yet, when we... I'm going to say something that I won't say. Well, it's what I tell people in concerts. You know, it's like we have been after the oil companies for so long to take the simplest safety precautions to uphold not only safety standards and to save the oil, but also to save the environment. For years and years and years, we have been asking them to do the simplest things, and they still refuse to do anything, right? And yet, who's the first one to step forward and take gross advantage of the situation over in the Persian Gulf? The greedy bastards who run the oil companies. So something must be done, and I think that it begins with you and me. I think that politicians, with all due respect, Mayor, are wonderful followers. They follow where we lead them. The issues that get to be important on their priority list are the issues that we bring forward to their attention and say, this means something to us. We want something to be done about this. And so you and I, in this decade of the environment, need to stand up and be counted about what we believe in, about the kind of life that we want to live, and about the kind of world we want to create for our children and our grandchildren. You've heard today that in the next 10 years, you and I will determine whether or not this earth remains inhabitable by higher life forms such as human beings. Now, so often people come to me and say, you know, what can I possibly do? The problems are so enormous. There are so many things that you can do in your own home, beginning with educating yourself. Recycling, the kind of products that you buy, the choices that you make every day, the way that you spend your money, and the way that you cast your vote. You must do the thing that you can do, and I would hope that this morning, when you leave here, that you will have inside your heart a commitment to look for and do the things that you can do to be part of creating a sustainable future and a healthy environment. I talk a lot about prevention, and I would like to close my remarks this morning with a little poem about prevention that I found very, very meaningful and have used in a lot of situations all over the world. It's a poem that I found in my chiropractor's office, Preventive Measures. And this is the story of the ambulance down in the valley. 'Twas a dangerous cliff, as they freely expressed, though to walk near its edge was quite pleasant, till over the side slipped a duke and a prince, and it had fooled many a peasant. The people all said something had to be done, though their projects did not at all tally. Some said put a fence round the edge of the cliff. Others, an ambulance down in the valley. The lament of the crowd was profound and so loud as their hearts overflowed with great pity, but the ambulance carried the cry of the day as it spread to the neighboring cities. A collection was made to accumulate aid, and dwellers in highway and alley gave dollars and cents not to furnish a fence, but an ambulance down in the valley. For the cliff is all right if you're careful, they said, and if folks ever tripping or falling, it's not the slipping and sliding that hurts so much as the shock when they're stopping. And so on for years as these mishaps occurred, quick forth would the rescuers sally to pick up the victims who fell from the cliff with the ambulance down in the valley. Said one in his plea, "It's a marvel to me that you'd give so much greater attention to repairing results than to curing the cause. Why, you'd much better aim at prevention. The mischief, of course, should be stopped at its source. Come, friends and good neighbors, let's rally. It makes far better sense to rely on a fence than an ambulance down in the valley." "He's off in his head," the majority said. "He would end all our earnest endeavors. He's the kind of a jerk that would halt our good work, but we will support it forever. Don't we pick up them all just as quick as they fall, and treat them with care quite liberally? A superfluous fence is of no consequence if the ambulance works in the valley." Well, this story is queer as I've given it here, though things oft occur which are stranger. More humane, we assert, to repair all the hurt than the plan of removing the danger. Before it all ends, it's time to begin to attend to these things rationally. Yes, build up the fence and let us dispense with the ambulance down in the valley. Buckminster Fuller was a dear, dear friend of mine. One day in a conversation, and something that came out later in his book on synergy, he said, "John, the primary challenge facing the human race at this time is a metaphysical one, and that is how to educate ourselves quickly enough so that spontaneous behaviors spring forth, the result of which will ensure the survival of our species." I always wondered what he meant by spontaneous behaviors. Last year, watching what occurred in Eastern Europe and watching the Berlin Wall come down, when none of us here today, even a year ago, could have imagined it, I realized what he meant by spontaneous behaviors. People whose eyes are opened through education and have a sense of possibility and opportunity that perhaps never existed before, commit themselves to making that possibility their reality. It's happened. We have witnessed it. We know that it works. It's time for us to look for the same kind of opportunity and the same kind of commitment in our lives. That is my quest. That is my promise. I'm honored beyond my ability to tell you today for this award, and I consider it a privilege to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If you remain standing for a minute. It's really an honor and a privilege to listen to you speak. It's just great. I can't tell you how great it is, and I have to also tell you, it makes more sense to build a fence than an ambulance down in the valley.
Yeah.
On behalf of the International Center for Tropical Ecology, it is my great pleasure to present the World Ecology Award to John Denver in recognition of his personal commitment to focus international attention on the environmental problems facing the world today. John Denver. See if we can get the front of this here. Hope you're aware of that being done.
Yeah, it'll be my honor.
There you are. Get around here. Look out there. I'm going to keep this.